right, some great news coming in as India's decimated Australia in the first test at Perth. This is truly a historic win for India. And India sealing this victory in the test match, the first test match. Historic, why? Because this is only its second test match against Australia in Perth in 6 outings that India has managed to win. Now, this is in fact sealed because of a commanding position that India had taken, courtesy centuries from Yashasvi, Jaiswal, as well as by Virat, Kohli. Besides that, you've had also, of course, our bowlers chipping in with both Siraj and Bumrah, putting out outstanding spells that has ensured this huge victory for India, beating Australia by a mammoth 295 runs. India was always in pole position in this particular test from day one, after, of course, our batters and our bowlers have contributed significantly. Let's bring in Nikhil Naza on this. A huge win, Nikhil, a historic one, and made possible by so many who've pitched in, done their bit, both bowlers and batters.
Right, Akshita. And why is it being considered such a big win? I'm not even looking at the victory margin, which isn't the highest in terms of, Australia losing at home. There have been occasions where they've lost by a bigger margin. Yet, dare I say, this is probably the most demoralizing loss that Australia would have encountered on their home turf. I can't remember in my living memory team coming to Australian shores and dismantling Australian team in the ruthless fashion that this current Indian team has done. It was absolutely one-sided, as one-sided that even an Australian team that likes to fight till the end, yesterday at the end of day 3, when Josh Hazlewood, a member of the team, was asked, where do you think this match is going to go? And he had almost given up. He said, I'm already starting to think of the second test match. I can't remember the last time that a test match was Australia and there was still a day to play and the Australian team had given up. That tells you the kind of dominance that we've seen from this Indian team. Also puts into perspective the last 2 tours that India had of Australia. They won there in 2018, then 2021. But this time, many thought, in fact, I'd have to accept this, that no expert actually picked India to win this particular series. It was Australia that were considered the favourites, primarily because of the form that the Indian team had shown getting into this series. And yet, this sort of dominating performance we've seen in the first test match is incredible.
And there's that moment.
India had to face an embarrassment of losing at home to New Zealand, and from there to bounce back in the fashion that they have, absolutely incredible.
Nikhil, so many headline performances from Team India in this test match, but who's the performer of the match for you, Nikhil?
Oh, that's a real tough one. That is a real tough one. I think, there's, of course, Virat Kohli with his 30th 100. That is the headline maker. But Yashasvi Jaiswal almost closing in on a double 100. Every time he's gone past 100, he's got 150 plus. So he's a contender. But I think if I had to pick a man of the match here, I'll have to go with the Indian captain in Jaiswal Bumrah. Remember, Rohit Sharma, the regular captain, wasn't around. He had taken, skipped this test match because of personal reasons. So Jaiswal Bumrah firstly stepping in place of Rohit Sharma as captain, doing a phenomenal job in terms of selecting the team and then execution planning. But more importantly, his 8 wickets. The 8 wickets that he has picked up in this match, I think that is the standout performance. So if I was to look at Yashasvi Jaiswal's daddy 100, Virat Kohli's 100 and Jasprit Bumrah's 8 wicket, I'll give that slight edge to the Indian captain in Jasprit Bumrah, because you had other batters get a lot of runs, but in terms of bowling, he was a notch above. And I'm including the Australian bowlers here as well, just notch above compared to everyone else. So Jasprit Bumrah standout player.
And what a turnaround, Nikhil. You mentioned that also in our previous, conversation where you said that, look at how Team India performed in New Zealand versus now. What really has triggered this turnaround? It looks like a completely different team.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And that is why you have to really commend the kind of performances that we've seen from the Indian batting lineup. Now, what happened at home versus New Zealand? India were whitewashed 3-0, and that was a rare occasion that the Indian team was dominated by a visiting team. Interestingly, those were spin-friendly tracks that really suited the Indian team, and yet you ended up on the losing side. after that series, nobody was giving India a chance versus Australia. One, primarily because, of course, just playing in Australia, beating Australia is going to be very tough. India's current form wasn't really good. Australia, on the other hand, had almost qualified for the WTC final. So all things were falling into place. And I think what added to the Indian worries was the fact that, we were getting a lot of news from Australia that they're preparing these nice, juicy, bouncy pitches, and they're going to intimidate the Indian batter. So this was unfamiliar territory then for the Indian team to be going in hostile Australian conditions and then, out-batting them. And why even more incredible that they've out-batted them is because of the confidence that they went with. There were doubts about Virat Kohli, the standout player in the Indian team. But the last 3 years, his bat had run dry. Wasn't scoring runs at the rate that he usually was. So there were doubts about his form. There were doubts about, your youngsters. Can they really stand up to some hostile Australian bowling? And then you had another problem. Rohit Sharma, your captain, wasn't here for personal reasons. Shubman Gill, a mainstay, fractured his thumb, and he wasn't available for this. So you were scurrying then for younger players just to fit in. You were going in with few all-rounders, very white ball sort of a mindset that you had to adopt in red ball cricket. So with that team, again, you had debutants in that. Nitish Reddy making his debut. Harshit Rana, a fast bowler, making a debut. So a lot of inexperience there as well. All of these things put together, I don't think too many people had given India a chance. And not only have India won the match, as I said, it's near embarrassment of what Australia has suffered here in Perth, because that's how big the margin of defeat for them is.